Hi everyone, hope all is well. This is Allie reading to you the Chris Watts Discovery. Continuing now on page 235 of 1960 pages. We're looking at the Supplemental Report 44 for Officer Davies. Okay, so here we have an email from Taylor Welch, who was the babysitter of the Watts family and one of Shanann's friends who also thrived with her. It looks like she sent a message to Officer Brad Davies on Tuesday, August 21st, 2018 at 10:05 a.m. It says, "Hello. After reading the affidavit, I went through my photos. I've texted Shanann in the past. I didn't know if these would be helpful. Below are photos of Cece on the baby monitor sleeping. If you have any questions, please call me at redacted." Sent from my iPhone. Officer Davies responds, "Thank you. So sorry for your loss. As I said, if investigators have any questions for you, they will be in touch. Regards, Officer Brad Davies." And then Taylor sent along 3 different images, which we're going to take a look at here. We're going to have to zoom out though. So it looks to be an image of Celeste sleeping in her crib. For those of you who don't know, this baby monitor actually flipped back and forth every 10 seconds, I believe, once to Bella's room where she had a big girl bed, and then once into Celeste's room where at this time it looks like she had a crib. So heading to the next picture, it looks like Celeste again sleeping in her crib, but face down this time. Doesn't look too comfortable, honestly. And the third image, it looks to be Celeste also in her crib. She looks to be a lot younger, though, at this time. And then heading back into the discovery. Please bear with me as I zoom back in. Okay. Supplemental Report 45, Officer Perez. On 8/16/2018 at approximately 20:41 hours, I arrived at the McDonald's to see if they had the surveillance video ready. I spoke with a different manager than before, and she advised she did not know anything about surveillance video being requested. The manager advised the supervisor is the only person with access to the surveillance video system, and they would not be back until later in the week. I asked the manager if she would pass down the information on the video surveillance that was needed, and she agreed. On 8/17/2018, I received a voicemail from the McDonald's supervisor advising he needed more information on what camera angles are the ones that were needed. On 8/19/2018, I asked Officer Dahl if he would go to the McDonald's to speak with the supervisor and inform him of the dates and times that were needed from the surveillance footage. Officer Dahl advised me the supervisor uploaded as much surveillance footage that would fit in the flash drive, but did not have enough memory and needed additional flash drives. Officer Dahl advised me he dropped off additional flash drives at the McDonald's. Officer Dahl placed the one flash drive that contained the contained footage in my mailbox. On 8/24/2018 at approximately 20:38 hours, I arrived at the McDonald's and spoke with the manager. I asked the manager if she knew if the other flash drives were ready. The manager advised she was not sure what I was talking about and called her supervisor on the phone. The supervisor advised he did not know what camera's angle footage were the ones that needed to be on the flash drive. The supervisor advised the cameras they have pointed outside do not record any footage. I advised the supervisor that I would advise him if the inside camera footage would be needed. On 8/30/2018, I asked Detective Baumhover if they needed any surveillance video from the inside of the McDonald's. Detective Baumhover advised me to get video of all day on 8/13/2018. I went to the McDonald's again and spoke with the manager. The manager contacted her supervisor, and he advised me the video on 8/13/2018 was already deleted because it was not saved. I will attempt to contact the security surveillance system to see if they are able somehow to retrieve the video footage. The one flash drive that had video was submitted into evidence. Nothing further. Officer Perez, number 987, Frederick Police Department. Supplemental Report 46, Detective Baumhover. Statute 18-3-102, description, murder in the first degree. Here is one of the victims. Watts Shanann Catherine, date of birth 1/10/1984, sex female, race white, home address 2825 Saratoga Trail, Frederick, Colorado 80516, hair black, eyes hazel, height 5'5", weight 148. Next victim, Watts Bella Marie, female, white, date of birth 12/17/2013, home address 2825 Saratoga Trail in Frederick, hair brown, eyes brown, height 3 feet 6 inches, and weight 40 pounds. Next victim, Watts Celeste Catherine, date of birth 7/17/2015, sex female, race white, home address 2825 Saratoga Trail, Frederick, Colorado. And then the arrestees or the suspects. Watts Christopher Lee, date of birth 5/16/1985, age at arrest 33, sex male and race white, home address 2825 Saratoga Trail, hair black, eyes brown, height 5'10", and weight 225, although I do seem to recall that he was explaining to Coder, the FBI agent, that he weighed around 180, 185 at the time of their interview, their first interview. The following information was documented at the time it was gathered. The date of this report is not indicative of when the investigations occurred. On 8/13/18 at approximately 13:40 hours, Officer Coonrod was dispatched to 2825 Saratoga Trail, Frederick, Colorado, 80516 on a check well-being call. The reporting party, Nicole Utoft, called about her friend, Shanann Watts, 1/10/1984. Nicole stated she dropped Shanann off at her residence located at 2825 Saratoga Trail, Frederick, Colorado, 80516, around 0148 hours on 8/13/18 after returning from a business trip that took place in Arizona. Nicole stated Shanann was 15 weeks pregnant and was not feeling well during the trip. Later that morning, 8/13/18, Nicole became concerned because Shanann was not answering her phone calls or text messages and also missed her doctor's appointment that was scheduled for 1000 hours. Not sure if that's the right way to say 10 o'clock. Nicole went to Shanann's residence located at 2825 Saratoga Trail, Frederick, Colorado, 80516, and discovered her car in the garage with car seats positioned inside of it. Note: Shanann and her husband, Christopher Watts, herein referred to as Watts, have 2 daughters who are 3 and 4 years old. Nicole attempted to enter the front door of 2825 Saratoga Trail, Frederick, Colorado, 80516, but a latch prevented it from opening more than 3 inches. Nicole called Watts and requested he come home to check on Shanann, as she believed Shanann may be suffering or passed out due to some medical conditions. The call CAD notes excerpt are as follows. Concerned about her friend, 15 weeks pregnant, she wasn't feeling well. She's having issues with her husband as well, not responding to text messages or phone calls. Shanann Watts, unknown date of birth, late 20s, early 30s. RP dropped her off at her house at 2 o'clock this morning. Her vehicle, white Lexus, is parked in the garage, not answering the door either. She also had a doctor's appointment today that she didn't show up for. Her husband's name is Chris Watts. Told reporting party Shanann took other 2 kids on a play date. RP doesn't believe this because her vehicle and car seats are still at the house. Upon arrival, Officer Coonrod checked all windows and doors, including the rear slider door, and discovered all of them were locked with no way into the house located at 2825 Saratoga Trail. Officer Coonrod contacted Watts and requested the code for the outside garage door keypad, who stated it didn't work, but that he was only 5 minutes away. When Watts arrived, Officer Coonrod entered the home, with Watts' consent, in an attempt to locate Shanann and their 2 children, but discovered they were not in the home. When questioned by Officer Coonrod, Watts said Shanann arrived home for her trip around 200 hours. Watts said he woke up around 500 hours and began talking to Shanann about marital separation and informed her he wanted to initiate the separation. Watts stated it was a civil conversation and they were not arguing but were emotional. Watts stated around 0527 hours, he backed his truck up to the garage door to load up tools and left for work, and that Shanann was in bed when he left. Note: a neighbor's video surveillance system recorded this event. Watts said Shanann told him she was going to a friend's house later that day with their 2 children, but didn't know the friend's name. Watts, who works for Anadarko, said he went to a job site near Hudson to check on it. At Officer Coonrod's request, I responded to the scene and arrived at approximately 14:35 hours. Upon arrival, I was briefed by Officer Coonrod and also learned Shanann's personal effects, including her cell phone, purse, and wallet, and medication, were located in the house. Upon entering the residence, I observed Shanann's purse on the kitchen island and a suitcase located at the bottom of the stairs leading to the upstairs bedrooms. A pair of women's shoes was located near the front door. Upstairs, I observed the bed in the master bedroom had been stripped of its bedding, which was lying on the floor. Officer Coonrod and I both checked the bedding for signs of foul play but found nothing. In a loft area located between the bedrooms was Shanann's cell phone that I later learned was found between two cushions of a sofa located in the loft area. On scene, I asked Watts to walk me through the period of time when he last saw Shanann. Watts said Shanann arrived home from the airport at approximately 01:48 hours, 8:13:18. Watts explained he knew it was 1:48 hours because a doorbell camera sent an alert to his phone. At approximately 400 hours, he informed Shanann he wanted to initiate a marital separation and they were both upset and crying. Watts said Shanann told him she was going to a friend's house that day, but Watts did not know which friend she was referring to. It should be noted, when I asked Watts a second time to recall his day, he told me he worked out in his basement for 15 minutes that morning before returning to the bedroom to speak with Shanann about the marital separation. Watts said he and Shanann, were having financial troubles and planned on selling their house and getting something smaller. I asked if they were planning on residing together during the separation. Watts said he would get an apartment somewhere and Shanann and the girls could move into a smaller house and they would share custody of their kids. Watts showed me an email via his cell phone from a realtor to prove his intention to sell their home. Watts said at approximately 05:27 hours, he backed his work truck into the driveway to load up tools, which he estimated took 10 minutes, and shortly thereafter drove off to a work site near Hudson. Neighbor Nathaniel Trinistich, 11/04/1978. Home video surveillance shows Nicole's vehicle leaving at 1:48 a.m. At 5:27 a.m., Watts' truck is observed backing into the driveway and leaving a short time later. The surveillance videos is only motion-activated clips which appear to have a delayed recording response. Using Trinistich's Xfinity login and password at a later time, I was able to observe Watts' work truck parked in his driveway for about 37 minutes and leaving at approximately 5:45 hours. A legal request to Xfinity for the full-length video is pending. Watts also showed me an alarm notification alerting him the garage door was left open at 05:27 hours. Watts said he received the same type of alert for the basement door earlier that morning and appeared to be puzzled by both the alerts. I asked Watts if he closed the garage door when he left for work at 05:27 as he reported. Watts said he thought he did. I asked Watts if he had received any other garage door alerts after that. He said he had not. Knowing Watts was employed by Anadarko, I asked him where he went after leaving his residence. Watts said he went to an oil well site near Hudson but was not able to provide me the well site name. I asked Watts if anyone could vouch his arrival at the oil well site. He said no one else was at the site until later and that he went there early to check on a repair before starting his normal duties. Watts provided me names of coworkers Cody Roberts and Troy McCoy and of his supervisor, Luke Eppel. I asked Watts again for the oil well site name, but he said he couldn't recall it, citing it wasn't a normal site for him to check on. When I spoke with Nicole, she reiterated much of the information I had learned from Officer Coonrod upon my arrival. Nicole added she was certain Shanann was inside the house because she backed her car up to get a better view of the front door and watched her walk in. Nicole also said there was no way Shanann and the girls could have left the house other than through the garage due to the doors being locked. Nicole said Watts typically does not back his truck up to the garage or leave through the garage in the morning. Nicole explained how Shanann would become upset with him because of the noise of the garage door opening would wake the girls. Nicole was adamant Shanann would not leave the house without her phone or medications or take the girls anywhere without their car seats. Nicole was unsure if Shanann may have had any other medications, same prescriptions, in the house that she could have taken if she left. Watts provided consent to check Shanann's phone and ultimately surrendered it to allow me to examine it for information leading to Shanann and her daughter's whereabouts. Subsequently, I transported the phone to the Frederick Police Department and began reviewing her apps in an attempt to locate any recent messaging, purchase receipts, etc. While at the Frederick Police Department, I spoke with Officer James, Night Shift Patrol, about the call. I informed Officer James I had Shanann's cell phone and was searching it for information about Shanann's habits, friends, and to see if she had any recent email or messaging traffic. At the end of my shift, I transferred custody of Shanann's cell phone to Officer James to continue the search and contact friends. Refer to his report for more information. A neighborhood canvass was conducted for several hours later that evening by patrol officers, and a check well-being BOLO was initiated through dispatch. An additional search, consensual, of the Watts residence was conducted by Sergeant Bakes, Officer James, and Officer Coonrod. Refer to their individual reports for more information. Nothing further for this report. Okay, heading into some written notes. 8/13/18. Talking with Shanann at 4 o'clock. Was going to friend's house today. 5:30 to work. Anadarko, site in East Hudson. Luke Epple, Cody Roberts, Troy McCoy. Thrive, something at home. 4 and 3-year-old girls. Supplemental Report 47, Officer James. Witness Maloney Addie gives her address, which has been largely redacted, along with her contact information. Witness Cindy DeRosset, and by the way, these are both friends of Shanann who work with her on Thrive. Information redacted. Christina Meacham, another friend of Shanann's, actually from back in North Carolina. They've been friends for about 14 years at this point. On 9/4/2018, at the request of Detective Baumhover, I contacted the following individuals that I spoke with on 8/13/2018 to request the correct spelling of their names, address, and dates of birth. I spoke with Addie Maloney, redacted, address redacted, Westminster, Maryland, phone number redacted. I spoke to Addie after I had originally left her a voicemail requesting she call me back for me to obtain the information. I spoke with Christina Meacham. Address redacted, in Hawaii, phone number redacted. Christina advised her husband has an alternate phone number of redacted. I spoke with Cindy DeRosset, phone number redacted. Cindy advised she would cooperate in the case, but was reluctant to provide me with her address because she did not want her physical address published on the court document. Cindy advised her name was released with the affidavit and a witness list. Cindy said she had no problem giving it, but was afraid of it being on a public document. Cindy advised after the second affidavit came out, she probably had 5 times more phone calls, including in the middle of the night. Cindy said they had her phone number somehow and said, like media, stuff like that. The information was relayed to Detective Baumhover. I left a message for Sam Paisley, redacted, and Jeremy Lindstrom, redacted. At the time of this report, I had not heard back from either party. Video footage uploaded to evidence.com. No further information. Officer M. James. There's some written notes. Officer James, his writing is a bit neater. Addie Maloney, Sam Paisley, Christina Meacham, Jeremy Lindstrom, Cindy DeRosset. Addie left voicemail. Sam left voicemail. Christina Meacham. Her address in Hawaii, along with her and her husband's phone number. Jeremy left voicemail. Cindy DeRosset, reluctant to provide address due to publicity. Addie Maloney, Westminster, Maryland. Supplemental Report 48, Detective Baumhover. This supplemental report was generated for the purpose of booking in evidence collected at the autopsies of Shanann, Bella, and Celeste Watts conducted at McGee Medical Center. Nothing further. Evidence chain of custody. So this looks to be the autopsies, and I apologize if any of this is difficult to listen to or to read through with me, but I will do my best to do this justice for these victims. So the autopsy was at McGee Medical Center, recovered by Joey Weiner. Date was August 17th of 2018 with a time of 10:20. This looks like the items and the inventory that they took during the autopsy. Item number 1, blue thong type underwear, location found, body. Item number 2, purple and white cotton t-shirt with silver peace sign and heart design, location found, body. Item number 3, black bra, location found, body. Item number 4, white metal post nose ring with clear stone, found in the nose. Item 5, brown paper bag on the right hand. Item 6, brown paper bag on the left hand. And this is of Shanann, just to remind you. Item number 7, sheet was found in the body bag. Item number 8, fingernails from the right hand. Item 9, fingernails from the left hand. Item 10, palmar swabs of the right hand. Item 11, palmar swabs of the left hand. Item 12, face swabs. Item 13, anterior neck swabs. Number 14, I can't read that out, but another kind of swabs. Item 15, X-ray disc. Item 16, DNA card, CBI. 17, fingerprints. 18, anterior neck swabs, clean. 19, fetus to the CBI. This is for Celeste Watts. Item 1, white underwear, Minnie Mouse, found on her body. Item 2, pink oil-soaked t-shirt, found on her body. Item 3, face swabs, dirty. Item 4, face swabs, clean. Item 5, anterior neck swabs, dirty. 6, anterior neck swabs, clean. 7, oral swabs. 8, vaginal swabs. 9, DNA card. 10, X-ray disc. 11, control swabs. Item 12, skin from right and left hands. Number 13, diaper, destroyed. This is for Bella Watts during her autopsy. Item 1, pink pajama top with heart and butterfly design found on her body. Item 2, oil-soaked underwear on the body. Number 3, face swabs, clean. Item 4, anterior neck swabs, clean. Number 5, anterior neck swabs, dirty. Number 6, face swabs, dirty. Number 7, oral swabs. Number 8, vaginal swabs. Item number 9, left palmar swabs. Item 10, right palmar swabs. 11, left hand fingernails clippings. Item 12, right hand fingernails clippings. 13, control. 14, DNA card. 15, X-ray discs. And now that I'm thinking about it, the types of swabs that I couldn't make out on Shanann Watts' autopsy were control swabs. Released by Joey Weiner, received by David Baumhover. Boulder County Sheriff's Office, 18-4894, reported date 8/14/2018. This is Officer T-Catch, the one who handles the search and rescue dogs. Summary narrative. Deputy Katie T-Catch, number K562. This report will detail a canine track during an agency assist for Frederick Police Department. Canine Scout and I responded to 2825 Saratoga Trail in Erie, Weld County, Colorado, to assist Frederick PD in locating a missing mother and her 2 children. Canine Scout and I found no trails leading away from the residence. We advised Frederick police officers of our finding and were released from the scene. Recommended case status, closed. Okay, Rexon Thomas, printed at 8/22, looks like a record request, Weld County DA on 8/22/2018. Victims, individual, watched Shanann. female, not of Hispanic origin. Witness, individual, Watts Christopher, male, not of Hispanic origin. Witness number 2, T-Catch, Katie. Deputy. On 8/14/18 at approximately 1000 hours, I, Deputy Katie T-Catch, was dispatched along with SARDUS, Search and Rescue Dogs of the United States, to respond to Frederick Police Department for a canine track. I obtained permission from Sergeant Mike Linden to respond out of the county with my Canine Scout. Canine Scout is a bloodhound, certified in suburban trailing and human remains detection through SARDUS. 2 other SARDUS handlers responded with me. Upon arrival, officers explained that a pregnant female named Shanann Watts, 34 years old, and her 2 young daughters had been missing since 05:30 hours on 8/13/18. Her vehicle was still at the house, along with her cell phone and any additional clothing or items for the children. Frederick Police Officer Perez then escorted us to the missing woman's address at 2825 Saratoga Trail, Erie, Colorado. After consent was obtained by Christopher Watts, I entered the home with 2 Frederick police officers to collect scent articles to use for the canine track. All laundry had been washed or touched by Christopher. The beds had been made by Christopher since Shanann and her children had disappeared, making it difficult to find a scent article. I asked Christopher to point out their shoes. He showed me a pair of flip-flops that Shanann had worn home from the airport. Christopher had previously touched the straps of these sandals. While wearing latex gloves, I placed a piece of sterile gauze in the flip-flops under the straps and let it stay there for a few minutes. Christopher also pointed out 2 pairs of shoes that his daughters had worn home from a pool party on Saturday. Christopher told me he had touched the shoes when he put them on the deck to dry. I placed a sterile gauze down inside the toe portion of each pair of shoes for a few minutes. After the time had passed, I collected the gauze and placed them in Ziploc bags. I exited the house. Christopher gave one of the Frederick police officers consent to have the canine search the house. SARDUS member Jane searched the house with her canine for human remains. Boulder County Park Ranger Jeff Hebert also searched the house with his canine. Afterwards, Ranger Hebert and I attempted tracks with our canine starting at opposite ends of the block. I scented Canine Scout on the gauze that I had collected from Shanann's shoe and told him to go find. We checked all surrounding intersections within a few blocks of the house. Canine Scout would either show a negative at the intersection or walk along the edge of what appeared to be the scent pool. At one point, Canine Scout turned north from Windham Hill Parkway into a field between Saratoga Trail and Steeple Rock Drive. He circled the tanks in the field, but lost interest, and I brought him back to the Windham Hill Parkway. We then continued checking intersections until we had completely circled the residence within the radius of a few blocks. During the track, I did not locate any scent trails leading away from the house. Ranger Hebert and his canine came to the same conclusion. I traced our path on a map provided by Frederick officers and gave it to Officer Perez and advised him our findings. We were released from the scene. Nothing further. Recommended case status closed. Okay, so this appears to be the map on which the dog went to try to catch a scent trail. Trail details looks like the duration was 54 minutes and 28 seconds. The conditions, clear sky. And then looks like a map of the trail that the other dog left. Looks like it went a little ways down Saratoga Trail, behind where the houses are built, came back out on Black Mesa Road, headed onto Emerald Drive, and back towards the house from the back of the house. Duration, 49 minutes and 18 seconds. Clear sky with a temperature of 81 degrees Fahrenheit. Incident report number 0184926 from the Dacono Police Department. Event info, date reported, 8/14/2018. 2825 Saratoga Trail was the address of the occurrence. City, Frederick, 80516, Dacono. Highway 52, southwestbound, Grand BW AV, I-25, east southbound, York Street. In person. Classification, assist other agency. Christopher Watts, 2825 Saratoga Trail, Frederick, Colorado. Narrative, written by Boyer Jackie on 8/15/2018. On August 14th, 2018, I assisted Frederick Police Department by downloading the phone of Christopher Watts. Frederick Sergeant Albert brought the phone over. Sergeant Albert stated they had permission to search the phone and that he would send a copy over at a later date. I used the Sustine equipment provided by the Dacono Police Department. The download began at 21:17 hours and was completed at 21:33 hours. I saved the report onto a thumb drive that was given to Sergeant Albert. I did not review or interpret the information for him. The Frederick case number is 18-06743. Any further information will be added to a supplemental report. Supplemental narrative, written by Jesse Lambert on 8/23/2018. But is then noted to be in the future because she says on 8/25/18, I'm guessing she meant 23, at about 0700 hours, I compressed the secure view phone download of Christopher Watts to a zip folder and uploaded it to evidence.com. Nothing further at this time. Case management, initial investigator Jackie Boyer, status approved by Daniel Ferris on 8/21/2018 at 1:12. Case status cleared. Incident report number 1807150, Firestone Police Department. Date reported 8/16/2018. Address of occurrence 2825 Saratoga Trail, Frederick, Colorado. District, Firestone. How reported, 911. Synopsis. I assisted Frederick PD with a search of the area west of the address listed in the report. The search was conducted via SUAS. I'm not exactly sure what that means. Classification, class, assist, other agency. Watts Shanann, 2825 Saratoga Trail. Watts Christopher, Watts Bella, Watts Celeste, all at 2825 Saratoga Trail in Frederick. Narrative, written by William Dewitt on 8/16/2018. On the morning of August 14th, at approximately 9:30 a.m., I, Corporal Dewitt, was contacted by Sergeant Bedsall with the Frederick Police Department via telephone. Bedsall requested that I conduct a search with our small unmanned aerial system, the drone, of the area west of 2825 Saratoga Trail, which is located in the town of Frederick, County of Weld, and state of Colorado, for a missing female and her 2 daughters. Bedsall advised me that a pregnant mother, Shanann Watts, date of birth unknown, and her 2, 3, and 4-year-old daughters, Celeste Watts, date of birth unknown, and Bella Watts, date of birth unknown, were missing from the residence and had been missing since Monday afternoon. Bedsall advised that Shanann had not taken a vehicle and her purse, phone, and wallet were still at the residence. Bedsall advised that Shanann and her husband, Christopher Watts, date of birth unknown, had been civilly discussing divorcing and had an emotional discussion the night before she and the kids went missing. I responded to the intersection of Summit Lane and Billings Avenue and set up SUAS Matrice 1 and completed the UAV mission checklist. I deployed Matrice 1 and searched the area between Highway 52 on the south, Weld County Road 5 on the west side of the Windham Hills subdivision, and approximately Holly Street on the north. I flew at various altitudes and started by flying north to south and moving in increments to the west that allowed me to overlap the areas I already searched. I then flew random patterns focusing on the canal, ditches, and bodies of water in the search area. I was unable to locate anything in the search area that appeared to be related to Shanann, Celeste, or Bella. I contacted Bedsall and advised him of my findings. No further action taken at this time. Okay, case management, initial Investigator and current investigator, DeWitt William. Approval history, all approved by Bryce Borders on 8/23/2018 at 08:11 hours. Next incident report. From the Firestone Police Department, the synopsis was to assist the Frederick Police Department with searching the well site near Roggen with the drone. This is when they were in Roggen at Survey. Okay, scrolling through to the narrative. Written by William DeWitt on 8/20/2018. On August 15th, 2018, at approximately 2:00 p.m., Commander Borders and myself, Corporal DeWitt, met with Agent Matt Saylor and Agent Greg Zentner from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, CBI, and a representative from Anadarko, Luke Eppel, date of birth unknown, at the Love's Truck Stop in Hudson, Colorado. We were requested by Commander Dave Egan with the Frederick Police Department to assist in searching the area around an oil well site located at latitude and longitude, I'm not going to read that out, which is located in County of Weld and State of Colorado, with our small unmanned aerial system, SUAS, for anything that might be related to the disappearance of Shanann Watts and her two daughters, Celeste and Bella Watts. Luke led us out to the site, and Greg confirmed that we had permission from Anadarko to search the area. Greg advised us that on the morning before Shanann, Celeste, and Bella were reported missing, Christopher Watts had come out to this well site for work, which had been confirmed with the GPS in his work truck. When we arrived at the site, Luke explained the layout of the site. The site was surrounded by a barbed wire fence, and the main site was within that fence. On the south side of the site was the well. To the northeast of the well was a separator, and to the northwest of the separator was a small tank that was open on top with a net over it that held water, and two larger tanks that were directly to the west of the water tank that held oil and water. Luke explained the water in the smaller tank was removed from the larger tanks as the oil and water separated, leaving primarily oil in the larger tanks. Myself and Borders set up Matrice 1, and Borders completed the UAV mission checklist. Borders piloted the SUAS first, and started by taking overall photos of the area and the oil well site. Borders then began a systematic search inside the fenced area, and started by flying over the south side of the site. Within a few minutes, Borders discovered what appeared to be some type of white cloth fabric in the field to the south of the site. Borders hovered over the white fabric and requested I walk out to where the fabric was to see if I could determine what it was. As I was walking south towards the material, I came across an area where the ground had visibly been disturbed, as if somebody had been digging there. I pointed out my findings to Saylor. At that time, Borders requested that we come back to the vehicle, as he had been able to get close enough to the material to identify it as a bedsheet. Greg advised us that during their search of the Watts residence that morning, there was a fitted sheet that was missing from a bedsheet set that was found in the trash. I advised Greg of the area that we had discovered where the ground was disturbed. I then took control of the SUAS, the drone, and photographed the well site from the south, incorporating the sheet and the disturbed ground into my photographs. I also took close-ups of the disturbed ground and located the head of a rake in the dirt. I later located the handle of the rake to the east of the disturbed dirt. Borders and Saylor went out into the field to verify that the item was a sheet. They approached the sheet by circling around the fence line to the south from the west and approached the sheet from the south. They were able to confirm it was a sheet, and also located two black garbage bags with red drawstrings in the field near the sheet. After identifying the sheet, they came back to the vehicles the same way they went in. Later, Saylor, Borders, and myself went out into the field by circling around the fence line to the south from the west and approached the sheet from the south again. Saylor confirmed the pattern on the sheet matched the pattern from the Watts residence, and that it was a fitted sheet, which was the type of sheet missing from the Watts' residence. While we were waiting for further direction, Saylor came over and advised us that Christopher had confessed to killing Shanann, Celeste, and Bella. Saylor advised that he had disposed of the bodies somewhere in the area of the well site we were at. Later, Saylor brought over his cell phone and showed Borders and myself one of the pictures I had taken with the drone showing the disturbed ground and well site in it. Saylor told us that Christopher had marked on the picture where he had disposed of the bodies. The disturbed ground had initials written on it, and each storage tank had initials written on them. Sailor stated Shanann was buried where the ground was disturbed and Celeste and Bella's bodies were each inside one of the tanks. Boarders redeployed the drone and photographed the oil storage tanks where Celeste and Bella's bodies were presumed to be. CBI's crime scene unit arrived on scene and requested that we take more photos of the oil storage tanks and a video of the entire scene. I redeployed the drone and photographed the oil storage tanks from various angles, and then recorded a video showing the site from a 360-degree view and close-ups of the major areas of interest. That concluded the use of the drone at the well site. All photographs have been attached to this report and saved in our digital evidence folder. The video was not attached to this report due to its size. The CBI's crime scene unit later requested assistance when they were exhuming what was presumed to be Shanann's body from the shallow grave. I assisted by moving sand and dirt away from the edges of the dig site as they unearthed the body. I had no further participation at the scene once the body was removed from the shallow grave. No further action taken at this time. Here's another supplemental narrative written by Bryce Borders. On 8/15/18 at approximately 0900 hours, I was asked by Sergeant Ian Albert of the Frederick Police Department if we could deploy our drone in the area of an oil gas well site for photos and to search for anything related to their missing persons case. I advised we could, and Sergeant Albert said that they would call later in the day when they were ready. At approximately 13:30 hours on 8/15/18, I was contacted by Commander Dave Egan of the Frederick Police Department regarding the use of our drone at the oil and gas site. Commander Egan advised me to meet 2 Colorado Bureau of Investigations agents and an Anadarko representative at the Love's gas station in Hudson, and we would caravan to the oil and gas site north of the town of Roggen. I asked Commander Egan if permission from the controller of this particular property had been granted. I was advised Anadarko is the controller of this property, and they had granted permission to do so. Well, little did they know, the ranch was actually owned by the Surveys, and they needed permission from the Surveys to be on their ranch and to be searching with a drone like that. On scene of the oil and gas site at the Anadarko representative Luke Eppel explained they control the pad site and the property surrounding the pad encircled within a barbed wire fence. The drone registration number was assembled for use. Initially, I took photos of the oil and gas site. See attached photos. Afterwards, I began a systematic search of the property encircled in the barbed wire fence area south of the main pad site. I observed an object that didn't match the color of the surrounding terrain. I maneuvered the drone lower to observe the object and identify the object as a bed sheet. See attached photos. After the discovery of the sheet, I landed the drone. Myself and Agent Matt Saylor with the Colorado Bureau of Investigations approached the sheet on foot from the southernmost point of the fence to observe the sheet. While doing so, we observed 2 black trash bags in close proximity to the sheet. Later, myself and Agent Saylor approached the sheet again from the same direction as before, to compare the pattern of the sheet to a photo Agent Saylor had from the sheets in the Watts home. The sheet pattern in the photo matched the pattern of the sheet at the oil and gas site. I then remained on scene to assist in exhuming the presumed body of Shanann Watts. I assisted by moving dirt a short distance away from the edge of the dig site as CBI investigators removed dirt to expose the body. Afterwards, I cleared the scene. On 8/16/18, I removed the photos and video from the SD card in Matrice 1. I placed the photos on a thumb drive and the video on another thumb drive and delivered them to the Frederick Police Department. I then placed the photos and video in the digital evidence folder on the Firestone Police Department's storage system under the case number 1807243. End of report. This was approved by Bryce Borders. And here are the graphics of the oil site taken by the drone. This looks to be the bed sheet. The disturbed ground, the site as a whole, an aerial view of the 2 tanks, and a couple other close-up views of the 2 tanks. And then the field where the disturbed ground was. Colorado State Patrol Hazardous Materials Incident Narrative Report. Incident date 8/16/18. Report prepared by O.L. Wilson. Narrative. On 8/15/18 at 23:44 hours, Sergeant Armstrong received a telephone call from Deputy Director Schaefer from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation requesting the assistance from the Colorado State Hazardous Materials Section with an ongoing investigation. On 8/16/18 at 500 hours, Sergeant Armstrong sent a text message to Trooper Wilson and Ted Bandy, both with the Colorado State Patrol Hazardous Materials Section, advising us to contact him in reference to a CBI request. At 05:04 hours, Trooper Bandy contacted Sergeant Armstrong and advised that he would be en route to Roggen, Colorado. At 05:30 hours, I had a phone conversation with Sergeant Armstrong referencing an agency assist we needed to complete. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation and Frederick Police asked our hazmat team to assist in recovering deceased victims from crude oil tanks in southeast Weld County. This stemmed from a case that Frederick Police were investigating where 3 members of a family were missing in their jurisdiction. Investigators had reason to believe that 2 of the missing persons were deceased and dumped in 2 400-barrel crude oil tanks at an Anadarko petroleum drill site. We were asked to meet CBI agents at 07:30 hours on the north side of the Roggen exit on I-76. I responded to Roggen and met with Sergeant Armstrong and Trooper Ted Bandy at 07:30 hours. At 07:53 a.m., Trooper Reader with the Colorado State Patrol Hazardous Materials Section called Sergeant Armstrong, and it was decided that a 4th hazardous material technician would be needed. CBI agents arrived, and we followed them to a remote Anadarko crude tank battery site north of Roggen. Representatives from Frederick Police, Anadarko Petroleum, DT Welding, and Northern Plains Trucking were already on scene at the tank battery. There were 2 400-barrel crude oil tanks at this location. Brett Schisler with Anadarko met with everyone on scene to talk about the plan to offload both crude oil tanks and on-site safety. At 08:54 a.m., Trooper Bandy contacted the Morgan County Dispatch Center to ask for a member of the Wiggins Fire Department to contact him. At 09:02 a.m., Trooper Bandy was contacted by Tim Walker with the Wiggins Fire Department. Trooper Bandy explained the recovery effort and requested a brush truck and a tender to respond to the scene. At 09:36 a.m., Tim Walker called Trooper Bandy and stated he had a brush truck and a tender headed to Roggen to the staging area. Sergeant Armstrong, Trooper Bandy, and I then assisted CBI and Frederick Police to conduct a grid search of the field just south of the tank batteries. We were advised to flag any item that did not belong to the ground in that area, on the ground in that area. We walked from west to east, then along the east fence to the north. CSP personnel did not see anything that appeared new or out of the ordinary to the environment. Northern Plains Trucking had tanker trucks on scene and were methodically pumping crude oil out of the tank to the east first. The crude oil was first being drained into a metal pool. A hose with a screen device on the end of it pumped the crude oil out of the metal pool and into the tanker truck. CBI agents were watching the metal pool for any items that may be evidence in this case. Jeff Jones with Anadarko used a 4-gas monitor to constantly monitor the air around the metal pool to stop work if the air became too toxic or flammable. Trooper Darren Reader arrived on scene to assist once the recovery process started. Now I want to warn everyone, trigger warning, this is going to be difficult to hear because it involves the recovery efforts of the 2 children from the oil tanks. While the first crude tank was being offloaded, Trooper Bandy, Reader, and I put rope handles on 2 containment pools. We anticipated the bodies to be covered in crude oil and were going to use the pools to put each body in once recovered. Wiggins Fire personnel arrived on scene and we staged a pumper truck to the north where the recovery would take place. The first tank was emptied enough to start opening the rear manway on the tank. DT Welding workers took most of the 64 bolts off the tank door and continued to pump off what crude oil was seeping out the bottom of the door. Sergeant Armstrong went up to the top of the tank and looked into the thief hatch. Sergeant Armstrong told me he could see what looked like a body, face down on the south side of the tank. Sergeant Armstrong took photos through the opening using the Weld County Coroner's Office camera. Sergeant Armstrong also photographed and measured the opening to be approximately 8 inches in diameter, utilizing a metal measuring tape. Trooper Bandy and I donned the proper personal protective equipment, PPE, and finished removing the rear door to the first tank. We had DT welding employees move to an area not in view of the recovery. We used a squeegee to remove as much crude sludge from the manway entrance that we could. We then put 2 hydrocarbon booms in the entrance to the manway to help hold back the crude sludge so entry could be made. Brett Schisler provided a piece of plywood which was cut by fire personnel so we could kneel on it when entry was made. We then had a brief safety meeting to discuss the process of recovering the body. Trooper Reader and I donned structural firefighting gear and readied our SCBA. We had 2 4-gas monitors with PID at the manway. Even with the thief hatch open and the manway off, the readings for lower explosive limit and volatile organic compounds were extremely elevated due to the combined space. We had Wiggins fire personnel charge a hose line and move closer to the manway entrance. Trooper Bandy and Sergeant Armstrong were posted at the hatch opening with a 4-gas monitor. We went on air at 15:41 hours and made entrance to the first tank at 15:42 hours. Trooper Reader went in first, then me close behind. There was a body, face down on the south side of the tank, with the head facing west. It appeared to be a small female child. Trooper Reader grasped the upper portion of her right arm to turn her over. Trooper Reader then lifted her by both upper arms as I held her right leg. Trooper Reader held her left arm and left leg as we moved the body towards the manway. Trooper Bandy grasped the left wrist and shoulder area as Sergeant Armstrong did the same on the right side. As the victim was passed through the manway, her left hand was degloved. Trooper Bandy and Sergeant Armstrong continued to support her body as she was placed into a containment pool. Sergeant Armstrong retrieved the removed skin that was from the left hand and gave it to one of the gloved Frederick police officers. Trooper Bandy and Sergeant Armstrong then moved the pool up the dirt berm and put it on a table. Trooper Reader and I walked around in approximately 4 inches of crude sludge and looked for anything else in the tank that may be evidence. We did not see anything in the sludge. We exited the tank at 15:44 hours and walked to the field behind the tanks to be decontaminated. Joey Weiner with Weld County Coroner's Office was on scene and took control of the recovered body. Wiggins fire personnel sprayed Trooper Reader and I down and tried to remove as much crude oil as possible from our PPE. We went off air at 15:46 hours. We then walked back over to our trucks and changed out of PPE and back into lighter clothing to recover. Sergeant Armstrong continued to monitor the victim using a 4-gas monitor, as the Weld County coroner and pathologist attempted to remove the crude oil utilizing several oil-absorbent pads. The first victim was then placed into a body bag and taken to the Weld County coroner's vehicle. The second tank to the west had less crude oil in it and was pumped off quicker than the first tank. Sergeant Armstrong went to the top of the tank and looked into the thief hatch. Sergeant Armstrong told me he could see another body that appeared to be face up on the south side of the tank. Sergeant Armstrong took additional photographs using the Weld County coroner's camera. Sergeant Armstrong also photographed and measured the opening to be approximately 8 inches in diameter, utilizing a metal measuring tape. DT welding employees also removed most of the bolts from the manway door on the second tank. While Trooper Reader and I were donning the same PPE, Trooper Bandy and Sergeant Armstrong finished removing the manway door on the second tank. Wiggins fire personnel again charged a hose line and moved closer to the second tank. Trooper Bandy and Sergeant Armstrong prepared the opening in the same manner as the first tank by placing a piece of plywood and 2 hydrocarbon booms by the opening. Sergeant Armstrong monitored the entranceway with a 4-gas monitor. The levels were measuring about the same as the first tank. Trooper Reader and I went on air at 17:53 hours and made entry into the tank at 17:54 hours. I went in first with Trooper Reader close behind. I walked over and could see a small child's body face up. I grabbed her right arm near the wrist area and moved her towards the manway. At this point, Trooper Reader was able to secure her left arm and left leg. Trooper Reader and I then passed the body through the manway. Trooper Bandy grasped the left wrist and shoulder area as Sergeant Armstrong did the same on the right side. As the victim was passed through the manway, Trooper Bandy and Sergeant continued to support her body as she was placed into a containment pool. containment pool, my apologies. During this extraction, there was some skin slippage where we had to touch the victim's body. There was also some skin on the plywood where her back made contact. It's just awful. Trooper Reader and I then walked around the inside of that tank, which also had approximately 4 inches of crude sludge in it. We did not locate any additional evidence in the tank. We exited the tank and walked over to the field south of the tanks. The body was turned over to the Weld County coroner, Joey Weiner. Sergeant Armstrong continued to monitor the second victim using a 4-gas monitor as the Weld County coroner and pathologist attempted to remove the crude oil utilizing several oil-absorbent pads. The second victim was then placed into a body bag and taken to the Weld County coroner's vehicle. Wiggins Fire again decontaminated both of us with hose spray and firefighting foam. We went off air at 17:56 hours. Trooper Reader and I then went back to our response trucks and removed our PPE. We cleaned up our equipment and began putting everything away. Trooper Reader and I changed back into our patrol uniform. Our on-scene hazmat team continued cleaning up and putting equipment away. All of the contaminated equipment was gathered and placed within a large tarp. Brett Schisler stated that he would make arrangements with a cleanup contractor to take care of the contaminated items. We cleared the scene at approximately 18:45 hours. Additional notes. After speaking with CBI agent in charge Lewis, he advised all of us to complete one report with all our input because we were acting as one unit. All times indicated in this report are approximate. Signatures. These are all the printed names and the signatures of the people who were there. And my heart goes out to all of those first responders and workers who had to witness that horrible scene. I can't imagine. Okay, so we are heading into a witness address update, and we are going to be concluding on page 272 of the discovery. We're going to pick up on page 273, as I said, this witness address update that lists out the friends of Shanann with their addresses and phone numbers. So with that, thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to continuing to read through the Chris Watts case discovery with you. Hopefully we can make some new discoveries together, but either way, I appreciate your comments below, as well as your feedback on how I'm doing so far. Thanks so much, and I look forward to reading with you again soon. Have a great day.